Right, it is time for reading. We're going to read an Anansi story. Miss Tyler and I are going to model reading an Anansi story. If this was a normal year, we would have at the beginning of the year taught you all how to do say something when you're reading. And what that really means is that you would be reading with a partner and you'd read a little while, you'd stop and you'd say something about the text to kind of make sure you understand what's happening.
You might be making a question. You might be making a prediction. You might be asking your partner a question. You might be wondering why something is happening. You might be trying to clarify because I don't understand this part. But when we read, our brains have to be actively working on the text
and thinking something as we're reading.
Miss Mom, sometimes I find myself like I'm reading the words, but my mind is somewhere else, and I'm not really reading.
But as a good reader, you stop and you recognize it, and then you go back and you reread. You don't just keep reading. So
I'm sorry, guys.
That's what we want to train your brains to do, is to be thinking as you're reading. So what we're going to do is just model reading a different Anansi story, and then you're going to read a story and do some work with it here in a minute. But we just want to read and model doing some thinking and saying something.
All right. The title of this story is Anansi and the Yam Hill.
So yams are like sweet potatoes?
Right. So before we read, we're already thinking, well, look, Miss Mom, that's food. Mm-hmm. He's going to want the food.
And probably want those potatoes, yep.
He's going to be greedy, and he's probably not going to want to, if they're raising him, he's not going to want to do the work. He's going to try to trick somebody into working for him, I believe.
Once upon a time, there lived a woman named Five. She was an evil woman with magical powers. The woman named Five did not like her name. When she was a child, other children made fun of it. The children would slap their hands together, yell, "Gimme five," and burst out laughing. That made Five mad. So one day she decided to cast a spell on the townspeople.
From this day forward, anyone who says five will disappear.
So stop. Casting the spell, she's doing that because
she doesn't like people making fun of her name.
Okay.
So if they say five, she's going to cast a spell. So she doesn't want them to use her name at all.
Oh, yeah. So no one's going to say her name. Okay.
The spell caused a huge problem in town. No one could say five without disappearing. Children could not say their 5 times tables. Shopkeepers could not name the price of anything that had a 5 in it. One time, when a shopper asked a shopkeeper the price of a toy, the shopkeeper answered, "It is $5." But whoosh, the shopkeeper disappeared. Stop. Why did the shopkeeper disappear?
Well, the shopkeeper was replying to somebody about the cost of the doll, and when he said $5, or he's trying to say $5 using that 5, boom, they're gone. A sneaky spider named Anansi also lived in town. Times were hard for Anansi. His family had no food to eat. He was too small to work, so he had to use his brain to get what he needed to live. When Anansi heard about the spell the woman had cast, he tried to think of a way to use the spell to get what he needed. Thinking, Miss Taylor, based on what we've read in other stories, he's trying to be a trickster. Mm-hmm. We'll see how well it works for him.
Thought Anansi. These are tough times. How can I make this spell work for me? Finally, Anansi had an idea. First, he piled up 5 hills of rich brown dirt along the road. In each hill, Anansi planted yellow yams. He watered the yams, and soon they began to grow. Stop.
He's working hard on this one, isn't he? That's kind of different.
It's different than the other.
He's not so lazy as he is in a lot of the other stories.
Okay.
Anansi then sat down by the yam hills and waited. Soon along came Dog with a basket of ribs. The sneaky spider spoke in his sweetest voice. So let's think. Dog had a basket of ribs.
Anansi's going to want those ribs. You think he'll tie a string around his waist?
Well, hopefully he learned that's not going to leave him with anything but a skinny waist. Okay, Anansi says, "Good morning, Brother Dog. I know you are busy, but can you help me? I'm not as smart as you. Would you help me count how many yam hills I have planted?"
Stop. Why would Anansi want Dog to count the yam hills?
He knows if Dog says 5, Dog will disappear, and what's Anansi going to be left with?
The ribs.
Ribs.
Okay, let's see what happens. Brother Dog responded, "Don't bother me, Spider. You should have learned to count long ago." The grumpy dog walked away, and Anansi sat down to wait. Soon, Bull came by. He carried a basket of fruit. Anansi said, Brother Bull, would you lend me a hand?" Brother Bull answered, "What's the problem, Spider?"
Anansi said, "I was a sickly child and never went to school. Can you help me count the yam hills I have planted?" Bull says, "Chill, Spider. Let's see. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Poof!
Brother Bull disappeared and his fruit spilled on the ground. Anansi grabbed up the sweet treats and rushed home.
So it worked with Bull, but didn't work with Dog.
During the next few months, Anansi tricked many others in the town. He tricked Turtle and Owl, Rabbit and Scorpion, and he grew very fat from all the food he stole and ate.
One day, Mrs. Hen passed by with a basket of vegetables. A nice young mother of newly hatched chicks, Mrs. Hen was on her way to the market to sell her vegetables. As Mrs. Hen passed Yam Hill number 4, Anansi dropped down from his web. "Good morning, Mrs. Hen. Can you help me with a problem?"
Of course, Mr. Spider. What can I do? Replied Mrs. Hen. I have planted these yam hills, but I don't know how many I have. Would you count them for me, please? Pleaded Anansi.
Mrs. Hen was onto Anansi's tricks.
Stop. What does that mean? She was onto his tricks?
I bet she had heard the other animals maybe talk about what had happened, or maybe
So
she
knew
what was happening.
I don't know why some other people weren't onto it.
That's right. She was on to Anansi's tricks, however. A few weeks before, she had seen him fool Brother Scorpion, so there are your answers. She'd seen him fool Brother Scorpion. Mrs. Hen walked over to the last yam hill and climbed on top. "Let's see, Spider," she says. "You have 1, 2, 3, 4 yam hills and the one I'm standing on."
Stop. Why did she say, "and the one I'm standing on"?
She knew she better not say number 5.
Anansi was angry. "What are you doing? That's not how you count," he shouted. What do you mean, Mr. Spider?" asked Mrs. Hen. Anansi replied, "I don't know of a number called the one I'm standing on. Start again."
Mrs. Hen says, 1, 2, 3, 4 yam hills and the one I'm standing on. Anansi became even angrier. He shouted, "That is not what you're supposed to say."
"Well, if you are so smart, tell me what I am supposed to say," answered Mrs. Hen.
Now Anansi was really shouting. "You're supposed to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oops."
Bam! Anansi disappeared, leaving Mrs. Hen with her vegetables as well as all the leftovers in Anansi's kitchen.
So, what are the lessons of the story? What can we have learned from this?
Well,
I think of a couple ways we could have said it.
I mean, obviously, again, don't be greedy because he was
Yes.
trying to take everybody's food, not just what he needed.
I also think maybe he could have learned just to work for what you want. I mean, take care of your needs yourself without stealing from somebody else, because that's
Right.
ultimately what he was doing, was stealing from the others.
You could probably treat other people the way you want to be treated, because he was trying to trick them and did trick a lot of them. So then what he got came back to him, that
Which-
goes around comes
What
around.
goes around comes around. Hey guys, preview. If you listen to our story carefully and you're listening to us talk about this carefully, this story is very similar to the story you're going to read tomorrow called Anansi and the Moss-Covered Rock.
Yes, it is.
It's very similar twists and turns, and
Yes.
some of the details. Details aren't exactly the same, but it's very similar. So
It'll help you.
It'll
Maybe
help you.
understand it. There's some magic involved in that.
yes,
Now,
and
today's
some words not to say.
Today's story, not so much.
No. Today's story about Turtle and Anansi, and go through, read the story. In fact, let me.
This one is a little bit like to me the fisherman in the nets.
Mhm.
Anansi's trying to play a trick, but he ends up being tricked.
Yep.
So that's kind of what happens in this story.
And let's go back to the one we just read. This and the Yam
Yams,
Hills.
uh-huh.
Let's talk about the theme, because that's been a question that's tricked a lot of us.
And sometimes part of that is because we can't hear you justify your answers, because when we listen to you, like today on the Zoom, we
go, oh, that maybe makes sense why you were thinking
we
that.
understood what you were thinking.
So if we said the lesson of the story we just read was, don't be greedy, work for what you want. If you said work for what you want, that could fall under hard working,
right,
or hard work.
Don't be greedy. I think that would probably be wisdom
or fairness.
Yes, either
fairness.
One of those.
What goes around comes around. Maybe fairness.
Friendship, even.
Definitely not a story with a theme with courage. It's nothing about being brave.
Not patience. Nobody had to be patient.
Not honesty. Well, maybe honesty, because he wasn't telling the truth really, but it wasn't the fact that he was lying.
Yeah, lying is not what caused him the trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Playing the tricks was what caused him the trouble. So the theme would be better related to something about
like
that.
Wisdom or fairness for the theme. Mm-hmm. So if he learned his lesson, if he learned this lesson about don't be so greedy or work for what you want, don't trick others, then I think next time he's just going to go take care of his own needs, go to the market, go grow his own food.
If he really learned his lesson, there would only be one Anansi story and we'd be done.
Yeah. So he doesn't learn his lesson.
He doesn't.
Okay. So you're going to read, again, it's on multiple slides, just like we've done in the past. Along the way, answer some questions as you're reading, just to kind of make sure you're understanding what you're reading. When you get to the end, hey guys, make sure you answer all of these questions. Yes. When we're checking your work, we're checking to see that you're doing all parts of it. When you get to the end, this is important. There's a quick Google Forms I want you to click on. And when you click on it, it's going to take you to the quick check. There's like 5-6 questions. And then at the end is what is the lesson and explain it. It should be several sentences. Start with the lesson is, don't be greedy or always tell the truth, whatever the lesson is.
And listen, I had a few friends who got confused. You're answering your short answer about Turtle and Spider go to dinner.
Yes.
Not about the story that Miss Milam and I read. One day earlier this week, somebody was trying to do their whatever on the story that we talked about, or they watched the first video about, not your real story. Make sure you're doing this about Turtle and Spider going to dinner, okay?
All right. Get to work and let us know if you need any help.